Welcome to part 3 of our Chainlink project technical drawing video series. In this particular video, what we are going to do is we're going to finish off our main 3-point projection by adding some labels as well as adding some notes if they are applicable to your particular situation. In addition, we are going to learn how to print. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we have our part open, and then we need to go ahead and open our drawing from part 2. So I'm going to go to File, click down to Open Drawing, and there it is. And we wait for it to link. And here is the drawing. A couple of things I want to address before we go any further. This happened a couple times yesterday. I had some students working in this right here. They had saved it. They were working in here. They hadn't added the images yet. They hadn't added any of the views. They had this stuff down here. They were ready to add all their little pictures here, all their different views, but they couldn't do it. They were not available right here. And this button was all grayed out, so they couldn't do it. When I looked at the actual sheet, I noticed that the lines here were blue. They had forgotten to actually finish the sheet editing. So once we did that, all this stuff came back up. Okay, second thing that we missed from yesterday, there is one measurement that we did miss, and that is the width. I have the overall length right here at 40 millimeters, which is part of our parameters, which is right here, the 20 and the 20. I've got, of course, 20 is 40. I've already got the overall width at 20 millimeters, but I didn't put anything for the 10 millimeters. And there's a couple of places I could do that. I could do it over here, or I can do it up here, but it's just a matter of where I want to put it. I'm going to go to Annotation, Smart Dimension, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. You know what? I'm thinking I want to do it over here on this side. So I'm going to add a note over here on this side, eventually to this, because I need to add a note, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and add that dimension right there because it is a longer dimension than the 5. It goes on the outside. We don't need a dimension in here. Oh, I have no idea what that was. We don't need a dimension in here. I told you this thing was weird. We don't need a dimension right here because we already have that taken care of right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Okay, so the next part, what we are going to do is we're going to actually name these views. We're going to name them front, we're going to name them top, and we're going to name them side views. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to have to add something called a note, and you have already done things with notes so far. We did it when we had to edit the sheet in part 1, and we changed the information down here. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add a new note. And we'll start right down here in this area by adding one for the front view. And notice I keep saying note. We're going to add a note, add a note. So we have to go to Annotation, and right here is the actual button for a note. Now the notes work just like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Once we add one, it's like adding a text box. I click it. It's now nice and active. So I'm going to add a note right, just bring it about down here, about like this, almost some distance. Drop it right there. And then it's going to go ahead and open up your formatting menu. You can move that anywhere you want to. You can zoom in and zoom out. And right here, since this is the top view, I'm going to go ahead and go top view, capital T-O-P, capital V-I-E-W. And I need to make sure that we can see this more so than just this. We have to be able to have a much better visual. So I'm going to go ahead and click and trying to click and drag that and highlight it. Has to be black in order to highlight. Come down here and do some formatting. I'm going to leave it as Century Gothic, which is the default. I'm going to change it from 13 to 24. And I'm going to underline it. And because this is still active and I haven't clicked anywhere, I can go ahead and grab this box. Nope, it wouldn't let me do it. So I clicked out of the box, but look what happened. That was my next point. Once you click out of the box, as you can see, it wants to make a copy of the actual top view. Well, I'm going to use that to my advantage, which means it's a whole lot less editing that I have to do. So I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, we'll move that to the side in a few minutes. Let's go ahead and add this one down here. We're going to add this one about here. I want to make sure that I clear this zone. In fact, let me do this one over here instead. I'm going to put this one right here, which is the side view, and click. And now, because it did that, I'm going to go ahead and use my keyboard arrows. Click to the left. There's my cursor. Back that up and call that side view. I can move these later if I need to. If I click out, then of course it wants to drop a new one. And that's how come I decided to do that side view over there, so that way I can clear my title stuff over here. And I've got everything lined up. So I'm going to drop that right there and change side to front. A lot of different ways you can do it. You just have to make it work. Okay. Now, notice I didn't spend any time in here. I'm going to go ahead and come over here to this green check mark and click the green check mark. Okay, now, I didn't spend a lot of time trying to find locations of these. I mean, yeah, I can grab them and I can move them over a little bit. And it's going to open this over here at the Properties Manager, and just click out of it. And I go ahead and reorient. I'm just kind of eyeballing it top to bottom this way. And then I can go ahead and close that. Just to make sure that it just kind of looks good. That way we know what views we have. Now, there's been a couple of questions because some people's front views are this, and some people's top views are this. Go off for your actual placement of your views. Go off what this actually says, the actual label on your palette. So these two might be reversed. That's perfectly okay. It's based on what you did for your actual part file. Not a big deal. Okay, so that's adding labels. Now we're going to move on to the next thing. Okay, now I have a couple of special situations. Now in this case, this is where things between what I've done and what you have done are going to be different because some people have some major fillets and some people have no fillets. I have fillets, so I'm going to go ahead and create a note for two different fillets that I've used that are very obvious on this entire drawing. The first one that's obvious is my 5mm radius fillet right here, so I'm going to add a note. Let me close this thing out. So how do I do that? Well, I want to add a note. So I'm going to come up here and add a note. And then as you can see, it is floating. I come over here, and if I touch, I have not clicked anything yet. I touch what I want to make a note. It automatically makes an arrow for that object. Now I'm going to go ahead and click here, and that will lock the end of the arrow in place, and I can drop a note box right over here. So I'm going to drop it here. I'm going to go ahead and type note. Then right down here, I'm going to make mention that this is a 5mm radius fillet. I got to spell radius correct. I know I've got spelling issues. F-I-L-L-E-T. I think it's F-I-L-L-E-T. And to make sure that the title and the note have a little bit of separation, I'm going to go ahead and underline that. And that's all I'm going to do for that. So if you got something similar to that, go ahead and drop one like that. Now, once to make another copy, I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. That way I can start a fresh one without it trying to do anything else. I've also got a major 1mm radius on every single face across this part of my chain link and on the other side. So that's how come I didn't put anything over here, so I can make some notes using this. So again, I'm going to come over here, click note. Come over here to this radius, this little 1mm fillet, click the fillet. That locks in the end of the arrow, and you can see right there the box, the arrow will jump from one side to the other. And we'll drop the note right here, N-O-T-E. Enter on the keyboard, 1mm radius. I do the same thing, and fillet on both large faces. I know it's trying to stretch that arrow over, but I can reshape this box. That's not a problem. So let me do a quick edit on this, add that underline. I can grab that and shrink that down. Notes are always used to point out something special or something that you really can't use for a measurement like this. It could be a chamfer. It could be some special situation that somebody needs to know that's going to look at these designs and does not have immediate access to you. Somebody might be wanting to do a machined piece. They might want to make this out of aluminum, and they need to know that when they put this in, that's not what's supposed to happen. There we go. There. All I did was click that to get the arrow to jump back to where it was. Again, this thing does act weird. Back to my comment about the aluminum, the machinist needs to know if they're going to do this as a CNC machine or hand machine it, they're going to need to know what that radius fillet is, so they know how much material to take off. Okay, so that is all we need to do for our drawing. We got all these measurements here. We've got each part identified. In this case, we got a couple of extra notes. Now, if you don't know if you need a note, no problem. Just ask and I'll make suggestions. And now we're going to go on to the last part for this plan. Okay, so the last part is actually physically print this off. Now, the printer we're going to be using is the massive color printer by the 3D printers over on the wall. It's 593361. And I'll show you that here in a few moments. In order for us to print this off, we're going to be using 11 by 17 paper. And the actual printer in the second drawer has 11 by 17 paper entered in. It's already sitting there waiting for you to print. Now, we got to do a couple of things first. Now, mine's already set up, but I need you to do the same thing I'm going to do. First thing I need to do is save this. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Page Setup. Again, mine's already set up to do this, but you're going to have to do the same thing. Now, when you actually start your, let me find this here. When you actually start your page setup, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see scale to 100%, and you're going to see letter. Okay, that's how come I changed these back. So I want to show you exactly where you're starting from. So what you need to do is you need to make two changes. You're going to go here and you're going to go scale to fit. That way it actually shrinks it just a little bit, because if you don't, part of this on the print off is going to knock off some of this letter and some of these numbers. So you want to make sure you scale to fit. And then for paper size, you want to go ahead and select 11 by 17. Now 11 by 17 is at the top. It's right there. And click OK. All right, now once you do that, now this entire sheet from now on, once you save it, and I'll save it again, is now always going to default to what we just set it as. So I'm going to come over here to File, come down to Print. Now in the name right here, I want to make sure that it says this right here, 019-P-B206-color-593 361. When I identify a printer in the classroom, that's what I'm talking about. So if I say go ahead and send it to printer 593361, that's this set of numbers. We also have 300-223, which is here. And we also have the giant plot printer behind the 3D printers at 318183. For now, we're going to use 593361. I'll go ahead and select that. Everything here is just fine. I want the current sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it will send the information over to the printer. At that point, my draft is finished. It needs to be turned in. So what you'll do is you'll walk over to the printer, grab the sheet, and then put it on the appropriate labeled shelf on the black cart right by my desk. And we'll start adding sheets and adding different types of drawings in part 4. That will be for Monday.